Hey friends, welcome back to the Your Sorority Journey podcast, Recruitment Takeover podcast mini-series. I am joined today by one of my dearest friends. We've done a podcast together before, but this is our first time in person.
It is.
This is kind of fun.
Actually next to each other.
To be like on the same screen in the same location. So I am super thrilled for us to talk today about it is not a coincidence.
No.
Give you all P&M specifically a little behind the scenes into what goes down in preparation for sorority recruitment. And so Lindsey, tell us a little bit more. Obviously you are not a stranger to her sorority journey as our executive assistant, but tell us a little bit more about your recruitment experience, especially supporting chapters as a recruitment advisor.
Absolutely. My name's Lindsey, if we haven't met before, but I have had the pleasure of serving as a recruitment advisor for my personal organization, Tri Delta, with a chapter in Arizona for the past, oh my goodness, 3 to 5 years.
Oh my gosh,
5 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's been incredible, but it's been a big learning process for me and even for myself. Like I was a member, I went through recruitment and then I helped recruit other members to our chapter. And now as an advisor, I've been able to see even more behind the scenes of the recruitment process.
Totally. I feel like being advisor really does like give you that other perspective. I remember when I was a recruitment supervisor as a leadership consultant and I was like, oh, this is what was going down when I was like,
it's so
in between rounds.
Like, oh my gosh,
that's what's happening. Yeah. So P&Ms, for short, that is potential new members. We just want to give you a glimpse and kind of like pull back the curtain into what goes into sorority recruitment, as much as we are able to really like alleviate any like fear or concern, or I think even like false stereotypes. There's a lot of myths that go on about the recruitment experience. And so we just want to alleviate those things for you. So Lindsey, what do you think is, just kind of going like off the cuff here, is like the most common misconception that potential members have about the recruitment experience?
That's a great question. I think the most common misconception is that a P&M has to look and present themselves a specific way in order to be accepted into an organization.
That's so good.
I think they think it's a superficial process when it's far beyond being superficial. We really strive to make it a value-based process and as a person as a whole, entering in an organization.
That's so good. And I think when that can be like really confusing is in recruitment, you will like hear all these like values embodied and presented of like what it means to be there's just like a little dog running in our backyard. This is so fun. About like what it means to be a member of this organization, right? And that has nothing to do with like physical appearance or even like previous leadership experience or background. But suddenly you're in these recruitment rooms and you look around at everybody in a similar shade of mauve, or maybe I'm like dating myself. Maybe that's like very 2016. Or like these like perfectly curated outfits, to floral decor, and maybe even like similar like hairstyles or ethnic background, right? Like all those things combined make us think that you have to fit a certain mold, when really individuality is probably the best piece of being in a sorority. All these like unique strengths and benefits coming together to make an organization stronger.
Exactly. I think that's what makes every organization so unique and so different, is every member is so different, but still they're able to come together and work for a common goal and common values.
That's so good.
And that's what a sorority is.
Yeah. So Lindsey, there's like multiple ways to join a sorority. There's like different formats that can get us there. Will you talk us through what some of the big ones are? And then obviously the one we're going to focus on today.
Yeah, definitely. So just a little education, Greek 101 for potential new members or P&Ms. You might be starting to hear this word primary or formal recruitment, and that's the traditional process most outside members probably think of joining a sorority. It's a formal, structured process that a Panhellenic sets up to help with parity and growth for a community. They want everyone to get the same opportunity to make their organization bigger and better.
Mm.
Some other terms you might start hearing is informal recruitment. Those happen off primary recruitment, but it's still a structured process. Another term, COB or continuous open bidding can happen. And that process happens directly after a formal recruitment process when chapters are trying to reach something called chapter total.
Yeah, snap bid is another one that we hear a lot around that time. And so just so you know, while we are going to talk today about primary recruitment, there are many different ways to join a chapter that don't just happen in those first 2 weeks of school, whatever that, or if you're in a deferred recruitment campus, those first couple weeks of the winter or spring term. Recruitment actually is open all year round for chapters that are under total, which is the average or median chapter size on your campus, depending on how your campus sets chapter total. And the goal of recruitment is to help all those chapters reach the new total to establish parity between the organizations on their campus. Panhellenic is another word that we use a lot, which is reflective of the National Panhellenic Conference, which is an umbrella organization that oversees also creating parity between the 26 organizations that are underneath them. And so because of that, there is also a local Panhellenic on each and every college campus where you might be going through recruitment to help establish those governing policies that are promoting sisterhood of the community at large, not just of those individual organizations.
Exactly.
So tell me, now that we have like some structure of the different types of recruitment, we're getting more into primary recruitment specifically. What are chapters doing to prepare for primary recruitment? Like, what does that process look like leading up to potentially members meeting these recruiters on round one?
Definitely. Well, it pretty much starts the day after bid day from the previous recruitment year.
So true.
Right? Like you have this big celebration, you just gain new members, and now you're already thinking, what are we going to improve upon next year? What worked well? What didn't work well?
Yeah.
So women have already been working months for this process. Most organizations have spring recruitment workshops. They started some in February, March. Some chapters and schools even provide a spring like Greek Discovery Day where you get to learn as a high school junior or senior more about Greek organizations. So spring semester, they've already been putting in a ton of work to prepare for, in this case, what we're referring to fall primary recruitment.
Yeah. So let's hang out at that springtime. So I think oftentimes we think as potential new members that we're all just like showing up with like a blank slate on round one. Obviously they've like thought about this a little bit because they're like guiding you around the room in a structured way, as you'll come to find out. But I think the goal of the spring semester is primarily for new recruiters. In the past, I mean, at this point, recruitment is changing every year since the pandemic. And so everybody is trying to get back on the same page. But because women who had went through recruitment in the fall have never been on the other side of recruitment, there's a lot of emphasis for new recruiters to learn the behind the scenes of conversations, of logistics, of like how you pick people up, things you do talk about, things you don't talk about, and even just get a sense of like how to present yourself and like sustain energy through the pretty long process. You will find as a potential new member, this is a very long and exhausting process, but as a recruiter, you are in, I mean, quadruple as many rounds, especially after round one. I mean, it's pretty equal playing field round one. And then after that, everybody is recruiting all the time.
All the time. Yeah, exactly. Like Cassie's been talking about, springtime has been the behind the scenes for a new member from that previous year. This is where that curtain gets unveiled for them. And this is what is shown to them. This is what happened during your process. This is what we do. This is what the structure we learned. This is the bumping. This is the flow. This is how we vote. This is how to have a conversation with someone you just met, and things that are comfortable to talk about, things that aren't comfortable to talk about, how you progress a conversation with a P&M throughout the week, and how you should be having deepening and more serious conversations. That's all a skill that is learned and taught. So that process starts in the spring workshop semester.
And I think many of you will see on Instagram this fall something called like a spirit week, a polish week, work week, which is what we call pre-recruitment, which is the week or two before recruitment that recruiters spend. I think like what should be the primary goal more than anything else is just reconnecting with sisterhood, right? Like getting reacquainted with one another. But in that process, there also are reviewing all those topics that were covered in the spring and going a little deeper. This might be when they actually develop, Lindsey used the word bumping. So either bumping or rotation groups, which is how they are ensuring that multiple members of their chapter are talking to each and every one of you when you come into a round. So when you come in, you'll get picked up by a sister friend, a recruiter, and there will be another sister in the room who will be waiting her turn to come join your conversation and take over. And each chapter does that a little differently. And that's kind of like the beauty of recruitment is each organization has their own way of doing those things. But in that week or two leading up to recruitment, they are practicing those transitions. They are ensuring that it's not going to be awkward. We're not promising it won't be awkward. Sometimes it's awkward.
Awkward happens. It does.
And so it's not just you, right? Everybody has their moments. And so the whole point of that time before is helping like smooth out the kinks that might come in what is actually kind of what I would consider like a awkward process in general, right? This is a forced way to meet people, to make friends, to connect with your like sisters. I think it's a little awkward. So we have to try to like create some normalcy to it.
Definitely. I don't know what's normal about opening a door and getting chanted at.
Boom, boom. Yeah.
Boom, boom.
But I think that's kind of like the beauty of like pre-recruitment is like normalizing the chaos until we find like a more authentic way to even like Zoom. I think Zoom was probably the most like authentic form of sorority recruitment that we've ever had. However, it was still awkward and forced and like clunky with breakout rooms and all the beauty that goes with that. And so all that to say that week or two before, as you are like thinking about moving on campus or like getting all of your suitcases packed. Maybe you're an upperclassman, so you're coming back, you're moving to your off-campus housing, whatever that looks like. They are hustling to get ready to meet you.
Exactly. You're preparing and getting geared up, maybe finding outfits and mentally preparing for your week ahead. The recruiters and sorority organizations are doing the same thing at their chapters as well. It's a week of prep. And like Cassie said, it really is a great week to reconnect with the sisterhood and learn more and bond with the sisters you already have, and then really come with a common goal of what you're looking for in a potential new member and how you want to grow and where you see the chapter and organization going in the future.
Yeah, that's so good. I think something that we often don't like about the recruitment process is that conversations can feel forced, or conversation topics that can feel forced. I think when recruitment conversations are done really well, or when recruitment prep is done really well, is when chapters are able to help their members remember all the amazing events that they hosted in the past year that they want to share with you. They want you to know about, and bringing in their personal experience to help explain why that was so impactful for them personally, rather than just giving you like that list of events that are coming up or what they've done in that past year.
Exactly.
And I think those are also great skills. These conversation workshops that are being held are great skills to gain for the workplace in the future. The other piece that you mentioned is like, there is a piece of evaluation where recruiters are getting trained how to see qualities in you all that are going to ensure the growth of their organization, right? Just like you're wanting to be a part of an organization that's going to ensure your personal growth, right? They have a responsibility to do the same thing. And so there is a different criteria for each and every chapter that they're using, quite frankly, to evaluate you, to see what is this membership potential, right? That is a really, I think across the board one, like what do they have to offer? Maybe what's their leadership experience, and not just in like leadership positions in high school or previous ones that you've held in college or jobs that you've had over the summer, but what ways have you just like been a leader in your life based on the things that you've shared on your recruitment profile, the conversations that you had? I know conversations is another big piece. What are some of the topics that you all are bringing up? I know just like presentation, not how you look, but how seriously you're taking this process. So I promise you, they are not evaluating you based on how by worldly standards,
Right.
you are looking.
No.
But how much you care, your professionalism, if you will,
Mhm.
in the process, how you are presenting yourself in the most like serious form, that you like took the time to really be your most confident going into that space.
Yeah, it's almost like a job interview. We want to make sure our organization is getting the best possible fit person for this new class, but we also want to make sure you as a potential member is the right fit and is going to succeed if we choose to invite you to this process.
Yeah. And I think the succeed part is really important, because the other thing recruiters know is the other chapters on that campus.
Right.
The other organizations that you are getting to meet. And so sometimes they are making certain decisions, or they are seeing membership qualities in you that would fit really well with another organization on your campus. And we'll talk a little bit later and in the episode later this week about how to find the one, how to remove some of the like personal pieces from the membership selection process, which is super difficult. I struggled with that. And you can circle back to an episode I posted a year ago about my recruitment story. That was a really difficult thing for me to do, to not take it personally. But at the end of the day, sometimes we need to look at not being invited back to a chapter, not as rejection, but instead redirection, because that organization might have known better than you did, better than your recruitment counselors or your P&M peers, that the organization that you might have fallen in love with, or just one that you had available to you, wasn't the best fit.
Right, exactly. And we want every process to be successful. So the process, like Cassie mentioned in her previous episode, and my recruitment experience is the same. It was a little more difficult than I anticipated it to being, but ultimately looking back, I'm so glad it happened the way it did. And you'll hear that a ton, like just let the process happen. But you have a choice, and that's why it is a mutual selection process with the options that are given to you.
Yeah. And we're going to get into that like mutual selection process here in a minute. Before we do, I want to ask you a question.
Go for it.
My second round of recruitment, I went into Kappa Alpha Theta at Arizona State University, and I got picked up by the door by this like really cute gal. Aww. And she brought me over and she like sat me down, and we were talking, and she asked me where I was from, and I was like, I'm from Portland, Oregon. And for any of you who don't know much about Portland, Oregon is a little hippy dippy, very focused on the planet, being like super conscious of its impact on it.
Yes.
And we sit down, and she asks me where I'm from, and I tell her Portland, Oregon. And she's like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it. I'm a sustainability major doing a research project on the city of Portland. And I was like, gosh. Wow, what a coincidence. Lindsey, was that a coincidence?
It was not. It was totally planned and prepared for.
It was probably not a coincidence.
It was probably not. Most likely the women you'll be having conversations with already know some stuff about you. They've been researching your recruitment application profile because they want to make sure they're providing a not necessarily easy, but like a genuine opportunity to get to know you more, and what makes someone more at ease than saying, let's talk about my hometown. Let's talk about the sports I was involved in. Let's talk about my major, because I'm comfortable with that. I know I can talk about those things. And so a chapter is purposely pairing or matching a recruiter with a potential new member to put the potential new member at the most at ease.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think the beauty of that, sometimes we don't like to hear that because it feels like, oh, so I'm just going to like bond with this one sister. What if I have nothing in common with the others?
Yeah.
The truth is you are only going to talk to that one sister. There are going to be others, like we talked about in that rotation group, that you get connected with. And you might, sometimes the lines get mixed up. Sometimes you might get picked up by someone who you weren't supposed to be, and find a super common connection that is a coincidence.
Yeah.
That is, I guarantee that's not the situation that I found myself in philanthropy round at Arizona State University in 2014. However, it could be something that you walk into. And I think the beauty of that is, even if you don't end up going to that chapter on bid day, for whatever reason, you decide it's not the best chapter for you, or they don't, you now have a common tie with another Panhellenic sister on campus. That actually happened to me in Sisterhood Round in Pi Beta Phi. I made really good friends with this girl named Ashley who had a couple church suggestions for me in the city. And I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to church with this girl. And I didn't end up becoming a Pi Phi, but we are still friends this day. We still follow each other on Instagram, went to church together a lot in college. And so I think it's really important to remember that while through this process, you are looking to find your sisterhood, you also want to find a lot more than that, especially for new students on this campus, on your campus. It is so helpful to start to broaden your network beyond your organization specifically.
Definitely. And there's multiple versions of sisterhood. Like Cassie talked about, she met a recruiter at a different chapter. She didn't join. They continued on that friendship. You're going to meet friends in your recruitment group or have friends coming in with you from high school or past experience coming into college, and they're going to go different chapters, and that's okay to have different interests. But now you have a sister friend in a different organization, and you can support that organization throughout the year just as much as if she was a part of your own sisterhood. Just because you go two different separate ways doesn't mean you can stop being friends, or you can't be friends with someone else in a different realm.
Yeah, that's so good. And so just to clarify, the information that you give give Panhellenic in your registration is just part of the information that they will gain about you. There are teams, just to like put it out there, there are teams on every single, for every single chapter that are doing their research on every single PNM to make this matching happen. They won't just do that from your recruitment profile. They will check out your social media. And so we actually recommend that you, first of all, listen to our last episode about how to market yourself really well on social media, by the things that you care about super authentically. Make yourself public. Go ahead and follow every chapter, the Panhellenic, other reputable sources of information for your city or your campus, because that all goes a long way for you to stay in the know, and for the chapters that are getting to know you a little bit more, to know that you care about those other things. There's a lot more that goes into it just than the information that you give in your recruitment registration form or any kind of video that you are making that's requested of you.
Absolutely. And you might even experience potential recruiters reaching out to you over the summer. National Panhellenic has opened a positive contact period for the summer. Not every campus is following this, but don't be surprised if you get a random DM just from a Panhellenic woman interested in getting to know more about you, or if you have any questions about the recruitment process or being Greek in general. Those conversations should be promoting the entire Panhellenic experience, not specifically one chapter. But it's great to kind of have a friend to know someone before getting into the process.
Yeah, I am actually super excited about this positive Panhellenic contact. Traditionally, Panhellenic has had really strict rules around communication in recruitment. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the role of Panhellenic is in primary recruitment? We talked a little bit a few moments ago that Panhellenic is this umbrella organization that governs, college Panhellenic specifically govern the recruitment experience on your campus. National Panhellenic Conference has some best practices for communities at large. That different campuses and chapters can use for their unique campus culture to implement. And from there are rules put in place and different policies to help govern the recruitment experience, like Lindsey said earlier, to promote growth and parity in the community. So talk to us a little bit more about how Panhellenic plays a role in recruitment.
Definitely. Like Cassie mentioned, Panhellenic as the umbrella organization on campus is there to provide the structure and format of the the primary recruitment process. So they're the ones who design the schedule. Parties are going to start at 10 a.m. The last party is going to be at 6 p.m. Round 1 parties are 20 minutes. Round 3 parties are 35 minutes. We have 10 parties a day. They're the ones designing that structure behind the scenes. They're also the ones ensuring that a PNM has a fair and equitable chance to meet every single organization on campus, and that when a PNM is having an interaction with a chapter, that similar things are being talked about on similar days in a timeline that is fair for PNM to make her decision.
And
so it just promotes a fair and responsible process for everyone interested in joining a sorority organization. There's also this term called RFM, or release figure methodology, and that's where the mutual selection process comes into place.
Yeah.
It's a matching algorithm that allows P&Ms and chapters to provide both of their preferences, and then the computer algorithm will match based off those preferences.
Yeah.
This has been really successful. It allows the process for a P&M to have the most opportunity to get into a chapter, which is what you ultimately want. It also helps that every chapter on each campus is a little different. And so it also is creating the opportunity for all chapters to have the most access to the most amount of women to make the best determination who should be in those chapters.
Yeah, that's a great way to explain it. So when we were talking earlier about recruiters using that, those criteria to evaluate each P&M, right? You are actually doing the same thing to chapters. So when you are going into chapters, it's really important that you know what your values are as an individual, what you need from a sisterhood, so that when you are going into each chapter, you're able to say, okay, they are really embodying this value that I have around like relationship building, or community involvement, or academic excellence, loyalty and sisterhood, whatever that is for you. Being able to pull out from recruiters personal stories, not just a list. I want to challenge all the P&Ms listening to not just go off the list of things people have done, but hear the stories and personal experience. Like you're getting little testimonials, of people's experience in each and every chapter, and using those to really shape your personal mutual selection process. Because at the end of each day, like Lindsey shared, if there are 12 chapters on your campus, that might mean that between round 1 and round 2, you might go from 12 to 9 or 12 to 8. And so you need to decide what 3 chapters in order would I not want to go back to, right? That gives you 9 or 8 to say, I don't know which one is my favorite.
Right.
But I do want to keep exploring my relationships with all of these. So you put all of those as number 1.
Right.
And then you decide, okay, the first one that I don't see myself as much in, but could potentially is number 2. I really don't see myself in this third one. And I really, really, really don't see myself in this fourth one, right? You're able to use your values and your experience to pare down your list. And then after round 2, maybe you see 9, then you'll go to 6 or 5, depending on your campus. These are all hypothetical numbers, but each and every day you will get to continue exploring relationships using your values. And it's really important to remember that you have control, autonomy in this process. So you should go into it with confidence. These chapters want you to join them. These chapters would be honored to have you be a part of their organizations. They are doing their due diligence, just like you are, to ensure that you would be a good fit as well. And so when you get your list back every day through this release figure method, that is not personal. Keep in mind that they are doing everything they can to ensure that their chapter is going to grow and sustain. And if they don't want you to be a part of it, you are better suited elsewhere. I promise you have way too much to offer to worry about why an organization did not see you contributing to them. But if you made friends with a sister in that chapter, that is worth giving more thought to and connection. Another group of sisters who are involved in the process who we have yet to talk about are recruitment counselors.
Yes.
Tell us about your experience with recruitment counselors.
I love recruitment counselors. I served as a recruitment counselor my senior year in college and got to learn that behind the scenes aspect of the recruitment process. This is another thing the Panhellenic, that umbrella organization, helps coordinate and set up. So depending on the campus, this is another thing the National Panhellenic Conference is laying out this year, is either a recruitment counselor is going to be still affiliated, you'll still learn this woman's organization that she's a part of, or that's going to be hidden. And these women and members disaffiliate from their personal sorority for a selected period of time. And they're there solely for a potential new member to help that person in their process for the recruitment week, to make sure to help. And they're not going to decide for that woman. They're going to help show her and highlight certain things that stands out to her, that didn't stand out to her, or help navigate a situation. What did she like about this conversation? What did she learn about values from this chapter? And help the P&M move through her process during the week. It's supposed to be a safe, confidant person, a go-to buddy, someone who just mentors and guides a P&M throughout their week. And their whole responsibility is to serve a P&M.
Yeah.
They're there to make sure P&Ms have the greatest experience possible.
Yeah. And I love the role of a recruitment counselor because they are unbiased mentors.
Yes.
Even if you know their affiliation, I don't think that's that big of a deal.
No.
That is not their goal, is to convince you that their organization is the best.
No.
They have surrendered their ambassadorship, if you will, of their organization to promote the community at large and to say, you know what, it matters more to me that these potential new members find their forever home like I have, more than it does for me to advocate for my organization. And I think so often we can get into this rut as members of our organization that we need to be superior. Our organizations need to be the best for us to have like worth and matter. But truthfully, the most humble thing that we can do as anyone in the recruitment process is actually take a step back from our organizations and say, you know what, I have actually been through the hardest part of the recruitment journey, which, friends, I would argue is the potential member experience.
Absolutely.
The decisions that you make, even though it's less exhausting, you have a lot more sleep, a lot more free time than anyone else in the recruitment process. It's the hardest role because you are making the decisions that are going to impact the future of your sorority journey.
Exactly.
And so knowing that, it is a huge honor to serve in this unbiased mentor role and to support you. And so utilize your recruitment counselors. They are a safe place for you to go to be honest about your experience, even if you didn't have the most positive experience.
Yes.
It's important that you speak respectfully about the chapters, giving them each your best foot forward, right? Even regardless of reputations, regardless of previous experiences that you have had with them, giving them your utmost respect because they have taken the time to host you, to invite you into their space, to get to know you. But that doesn't mean you have to love them. And so sharing critical concerns that you have with recruitment counselors is a really safe place for you to like vent through that and also flesh out maybe some harder decisions between multiple chapters that you are really excited about.
Yeah, the recruitment counselor should be the go-to person versus a mom or a best friend in helping you decide your process.
Yeah.
Like Cassie said, they're meant to be an unbiased third-party opinion to help you navigate the decision-making process.
Yeah. One of my like favorite things that I held on to when I was chapter president was this belief that while every member that came into our recruitment room like had so much value and had so much to offer, not every one of them had to be a Sigma Kappa.
Absolutely.
Right. So I wanted everyone that came in to have so much fun with our organization, to feel like so loved, seen, and cared about, that when they left and they saw Sigma Kappas on campus, they would know that we are friends of theirs, even if they weren't right for us or we weren't right for them, whatever the outcome was. And I think recruitment counselors serve much of a similar role, right?
Yes.
Even if you know their affiliation, they are friends of yours beyond the recruitment experience and want you to just have the best, most positive experience with the Panhellenic community, even if being a sorority member isn't the right decision for you.
Absolutely. I still am in touch with my recruitment counselors from 12 years ago.
Yeah, me too. I love that.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, we just want you to hear, we just want to give you a little bit more insight into what it means, what pre-recruitment really looks like for recruiters, recruitment counselors, what the role of Panhellenic is. So your, fears or concerns can de-escalate a little bit and you can focus on what matters most, which is bringing your most authentic, confident self into the recruitment experience, knowing that what you have to say, what your values are, what you need from an organization matters.
Absolutely. I don't think I could have said it any better.
Well, Lindsey, this was so fun. I love you too. I just love to have you in town this summer and get to work on all things for Sorority Journey and recruitment with you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
We have another potential member episode later this week, how to find the one. So make sure to tune in. And if you resonated with this at all, make sure to share it with another friend that you have going through recruitment too. We're here to support you, friend, before your sorority journey and once it begins on bid day. See ya.